monetary marshal or show of power. Because at the end of the day, nominations for parties are, I think, one of the biggest hurdles that young people face in politics. I know quite a number of young people who were vying in various positions across the country that felt that they were shortchanged during the party nominations, and they came in as independent candidates. But at the end of the day, you find that the party carries the day. It was such a battle for me, and I want to thank the president and UDA, because he had made a commitment to ensure that UDA nominations were going to be free and fair, and they were going to envision what he wants to carry on and the promise he made to the Kenyan people. So we need the goodwill of the political powers that be for young people to take up space in politics. You see what happened with Jubilee Party. They were having those boardroom discussions and handing over the certificate. You know, it's like someone who's sitting in power just wagging the card and deciding, oh, it goes to this one, right? So at the end of the day, there's a lot of hurdles that come in, and that those hurdles are cultivated by, you know, the power of money that young people can marshal. Because even at 28 years of age, I did not have enough money to bully my way through. So there has to be some extent of goodwill, and money is important in politics. The young people who got in without, you know, having to dish out money like me and my colleagues, it is the exception. We want to make it the norm. Okay. We want our democracy to get there. Okay.
Well, when you talk about that, Beggy, if I may. Just hang on. I'll come to you. When you talk about that, Honda Bonjeri, then earlier on you posed the question on the tyranny of numbers of the young people.
Yes.
When will they then understand that becoming a constituency is very key? Because now you are fragmented. I mean, you have young people represented in the ODM party, you have young people in the Wiper party, you have young people in KANU party, Ford Kenya party, ANC party, in the UDA party, and other constituent members of the Kenya Kwanza alliance. When will they understand that becoming a constituency is key, and then beyond the conversation that hangs around them, are now forging a political way forward?
I'm not sure that we are going to reach at that point, because like you've said, it's a phase, right? You're 18, you're 35 someday, right? In the next election, after the next election, I will no longer be a youth. 10 years from now, I'll not be a youth. So at the end of the day, I will now be purported to be the status quo. Do I want to be overrun by young people? You see, politics is a career, right? And most of the times you see the faces that you have seen from years and years ago are the same faces that you're seeing right now. So what happens is once in a while we get in some new fresh faces, right? We have that constant, what do I say, constant repeat, you know, of the faces that you have seen before. Because you want to progress as a politician. I want to come from this seat, perhaps in the next 10 years go to another seat, perhaps in the next, then, you know, go for the deputy presidency and that. So at the end of the day, I don't think we will have a point where we want to have a constituency that threatens to overrun the entire progression of any person at a particular point. But what we can do is we want as many young people as possible in government, not only in leadership positions, but also in parastatals, in the ministries, so that at least we can have a collective input and see whether we can channel the energy of young people to have an output that is going to develop this nation.
Yes, Beggy, you had a point.
Yeah, just to maybe have a different thought on what she said. You see, there's no problem with being overrun as a young leader or as a leader in a constituency, whichever. Because if you do not have value, if you do not add value, why should people keep you? If there's a better young person who can deliver better than you, then let's give this other person a chance to be able to do what they need to do. And then again, basing on a case where the head of state was able to intervene then when he was the deputy as a party leader to UDA, these things happened in UDA. Let's not sit here and pretend like they never happened. They happened. Bigwigs wanted to shove off young guys who've come up and they've stepped up. But the president stood firm and said there's nothing like that. Whoever has genuinely won should be given the certificate. Again, I'll use the example of Kericho. CS Keter was very powerful. It was assumed that he's an ally of William Ruto. But despite all that, the president was able to put his feet on the ground and say, no, let the fair person pick the ticket. Yeah? And in many, many areas.
So that clearly points to goodwill then.
Yeah, he has the goodwill. That's what I wanted to say. He has the goodwill to make sure that the young people who deserve it get it. The young people who's fought for it and have what it takes to do what is right, have it. That's the point. And again, even in this, the appointment she's talking about, that we're expecting appointments from the president in the near future, it is purely up to him to still put his feet on the ground and check the list that comes on board. Is this right? Because we still have people who have malice. At the end of the day, they'd want to maybe take a name for another name, put a friend or a quasi on board and get the list to be not the original list. So yes, positions that are supposed to be meant for young people. I remember the head of state was saying a while ago over some campaign trips that even if we don't all fit in the cabinet, like I said earlier, there are so many other positions within the cabinet and in government that can be considered for young people. And I would sincerely urge the president to hold on to those words and to make sure at least he keeps his word, because we all depend with this government. It's given us hope as young people. If it pleases him, may he reward the young people that deserve a chance to serve in his government, because young people have potential. They have what it takes. These boards, CEO positions, commissions, there are so many places young people can fit in.
When you mention them again, it's a very extensive topic. In Jere, I come to you.
Yes.
The 2013 campaigns for the president, then the finance minister and the deputy prime minister, and President William Ruto, then the party leader of the United Republican Party, URP, was formed on the basis of the digital duo who had brought young people on board, the likes of Governor Sakaja, then who was the party chairperson of the TNA party, the National Alliance of President Uhuru Kenyatta. But over time again, as you have mentioned, according to Beggy, there seems to have been the lethargy towards the young people by the immediate previous government of the Uhuru government, may I say. Now, how then, because you mentioned goodwill from the president, how then do you think that young people ought to be mentored, not only given these positions, but also mentored, before I come to the aspect about them being used as avenue and channels for violence? Then where is the mentorship from the political leadership in the country?
You often find, factually speaking, in politics that intentional mentorship is lacking from the political class on a general scale. That does not mean that there are no politicians who are mentoring other politicians or rather upcoming young leaders, but the general perspective is that intentional mentorship is lacking. And I will speak even on behalf of young women leaders. When we've had discussions around it, you find that they feel that they are not supported by the female, on a general scale, the female leadership in that is at the top of the hierarchy of leadership in politics. So at the end of the day, I think what we need to do is to have constant engagements over time to build up, and for leaders like me, I've taken it upon myself because of what I have seen or what I have experienced to ensure that I am supporting young female leaders. So there has to be intention, and it's something that we will work on, and I believe that it is a work in progress, and I'm just calling upon even other female leaders and other young leaders in general to ensure that they at least hold the hands of other young people so that we can see and we can make a headway. During the campaigns, the president promised us a youth ministry. Unfortunately, we do not have it. But I will be holding him accountable to the promises he made to the young people of this nation, because just besides being a member of parliament for Kirinyaga County under the president's party, I also have a duty to ensure that I bolster the opportunities for young people and for the upcoming generations. So at the end of the day, we will push for things when we can, but you find that even in politics, you learn to listen more and talk less. So it's a tricky balance, because you're also looking at your political survival.
Isn't it then also, when you say that you'll hold the president accountable, then you deem that the promise that he made, the pledge, very key and important to the young people. So being the voice of these young people, and it also happened in the previous government, the concern is then that the feeling by the young in Kenya that why are we sidelined, yet people who are, may I consider this, who are one cheeseburger away from a cardiac arrest are considered? I mean, you have seen the concerns that have been addressed over appointments made by, for example, the former President Uhuru Kenyatta in appointing some members to very specific parastatals in the country. Then it seems to be a continuity. There seems to be a perpetual continuity. I mean, when will the political establishment then understand that the clarion call from the young people is amplifying by time?
I believe that we need to separate the last government from this government. And William Samoei Ruto just was sworn in just the other day. You know, so we cannot say that he has abandoned young people. I've already told you that there's intention and goodwill, and he has made it very clear, in particular, even to myself, that he wants to mentor young people. And like I've said, you've seen that even in committees, we are not in, you know, in Bunge, there are those committees where, you know, things are not really happening. You know, young people are faces of committees that are actually powerful and will be handling quite sensitive matters.
Who can you cite? Because we had many this morning.
There's Cynthia Muge.
Okay.
She's in health.
Okay.
There's myself. I'm in justice and legal affairs. And there are many other young people in agriculture, in finance. So in ICT, you know. So we have the intention from this president. So let us have a discussion perhaps, right, down the line, whether this president is going to meet the needs or the promises he made to the young people. And like I've said, we're here to hold him accountable and remind him, you know, should he forget along the way.
Okay. Yes, Beg, you had a point?
Yeah, on the same. You know, the president is just a human being like us, but he has a mandate to deliver. And yes, he made a commitment to young people that he's going to work with them, which I don't want us to feel and say that he's not going to work with the young people like it's coming out. No, 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 it's still too early. And we still have 5 years, yeah? And I believe the bigger issue is the cabinet secretary position, our youth-led ministry that he pronounced. I feel all is not lost, because even these ministers who've been checked in or sworn in yesterday, who knows? You know, William Ruto's government, I keep saying this, it's a performance-based government. And you see all these appointments were made for different reasons. Like he spoke himself, he said it could be regional, could be whichever angle it was. Sometimes you have to allow the head of state to do things the way he wants to do. I'm sure he has a plan to begin from this point to head this way. But again, we are still going to hold him liable for his words, for his promises to the young people. Because if there's one president who I know has brought hope to young people, is President William Ruto. Young people believe in him, young people look up to him. And you see, for him, he has a lot to lose, because if he does not keep his word with the young people, there's still another election coming. So the way I know His Excellency the President William Ruto is a man of his words. He may not act immediately as the young people expect that he will act immediately, but along the way, he's going to consider that. And I'm very sure a lot of young people are going to be given appointments in the CSS position, CEOs, MDs, board, and all these remaining aspects, government corporations that are still standing. There are going to be so many places for the youth. That one I can assure the young people. I am not the president, I cannot speak on his behalf, but at least with who he is, being close to him, having working close to him during the campaign period and all these things, his commitment to the young people is amazing. His interest to see the young people taking charge is amazing. The mentorship she is talking about, the president is very keen in mentoring young people in leadership, parliamentarians in simple terms, to become better people. On this other side of people young people who are not in parliament, is also keen to make sure that he creates a space for them to be able to serve. But then again, as young people, in any case this opportunity comes, it's up to us to make sure that we deliver, because failure to deliver will again harm us. Because what's the point of giving appointments to young people who can't deliver? As a head of state, he has a mandate, he has a country. The whole of Kenya is looking up to him. Okay, so the bottom line is... Yeah, bottom line is you have to deliver. Performance. Yeah. He can give you a chance as a young person, but if you don't deliver, he will not consider young people again, because we are letting him down. Okay. But we pray for the chance so that we get the chance to fail to deliver or deliver.
the bottom line is performance. And let me read you this text from the ruling Jubilee Party youth leader, Advice Mundalo. He says the initial problem facing political youth leadership is the youth themselves. Most young people in the political boardroom, left alone, will rarely endorse the name of another youth for any lucrative appointment or position. This is something the political class knows and takes advantage to creatively avoid the young people. Most of us in the young leadership positions imagine that youth leadership is about me, and unless the opportunity is poised for me, then the other is not a youth. Our journey to liberation must start from inward. Until we become a constituency, we shall only continue being the sweet conversations that normally are a cliche now. An enemy of yourselves?
True.
True. And, you know, we must call a spade a spade. And at the end of the day, like I have said, it is such an uphill task for young people to be a constituency, because it is a phase in life. And if I am having an input on young people for the period of up to when I am no longer considered a youth, you find that over and above that, I want to cultivate, to work around young people, to also sustain my stay in power. So at the end of the day, it is a tricky balance, and it would be such an uphill task for young people to be a constituency. But they do not have to be a constituency to impact and to make change. They only need to organize themselves and realize that they find some middle level common ground. They say perhaps we want to take up 50% positions in leadership. And what are young people bringing? Young people are not saying, look at me, I'm young, vote for me because I am young. No, young people are saying, I am capable. I have the mental capacity and the intellect to deliver. So it is not just about being young. It is about having the capacity to deliver. Yes, you're young, but do you have the capacity to deliver? Do you have the capacity to sustain the level of discipline that is required to get to where you want to get? So there's a lot of all these aspects, and we can't really just say every time that, oh, young people cannot work together. Of course, it has been said over time, but it doesn't mean that they cannot rally towards a common goal. Why would we fail to support a leader who delivers but who is older than us? There is no reason to fail to support such a leader. So at the end of the day, it doesn't mean that just because I am young, that's the only thing that I'm offering. That
should not be the only criterion.
Yes.
But you mentioned a very important point before we go on a break, come back and finish up. The question on the organization. What do you think then? Because look at the decry from the young people from that constituency. It's between now and mid-2027, before we head to the other elections, by the grace of God, that is, if God grants us.
Yes.
And then the conversation certainly changes. There comes in ethnicity, there comes in the class, there comes in the political divisions, and then the fragmentations as a consequence. Then how will that organization be practical? What do you think are the factors that are likely to glue up these young people together, even post the election process?
A major factor of organization is resources. Do young people have the resources to organize themselves? You find that even in the youthful organizations that we've ran, you know, prior to getting to this certain age, maybe in university or pre-university or post-university, most of the time we're looking at the status quo to fund youth organizations. And what you find is that, you know, the piper is the one who calls the tune, right? So if someone is funding you, then they will obviously have an input in the output that you have.
Okay.
So young people need to find the discipline to sacrifice the mega resources that we have so that we can coalesce towards a common goal and be able to push for something that we want. Because if you're going to look for those resources outside of your organization or your social stratas as young people, then there will be a cost to pay. So at the end of the day, it's about discipline for young people. We must agree. We have limited resources. But if we want to have an output that is not coalesced or that is not coerced by any outside forces, then we have to ensure that we walk the thin line and face sometimes, you know, challenges along the way. If I am doing any mobilization at the grassroots. You find that for young people, and I believe this is something that Becky is aware of, you want a token to attend perhaps maybe even a rally to discuss matters that affect us.
Yeah, sure.
Then other young people, where will they get that token to give to you to come to discuss your issues? So you must first do away with tokenism.
Okay.
Let us agree to meet and discuss our issues without outside input, so that we can have an output that will push our agenda. And
that tokenism is what drives the mammoth of crowd towards political campaigns.
Yes.
Sure.
And this is clearly an indication of how vulnerable the young people are to systemic corruption in the country, largely money as a result of malfeasance or pilferage from the state coffers, and then clearly blinds them politically. Then the decry starts after the election, continues up to the next election, and the question you have addressed on. Then, Begi Gesisho, you talked about the unwillingness by some members of the establishment in not wanting young people to spur up, in not wanting young people to germinate and take up these spaces. And you have mentioned the likes of the president, who you said were willing within the confines of the UDA party for young people's voices to be heard, amplified and echoed. Then what do you think might be driving all these fears that the political class harbors towards the young people? And earlier on we talked about the productivity that young people must possess. What might be the driving factor?
You see, what gives them a cold feet is, one, young people are very aggressive. And then you see where we are right now at this time and age. Information is everywhere. Young people are well educated and they are able to get information and learn things very fast. They have all the time to be aggressive. They have all the time to learn new things. Learn and learn, learn and learn. So, you see, let me use an example of, I will not mention a name, but I know very many successful leaders have worked closely with very many young people who are smart. And it elevated them to a point where they are able to enjoy even more. You see, at the end of the day, they say, if it's a chain or something you want it to roll, you must grease it. You must have something with efficiency and effectiveness to get it running. The young people are the engines. And these young people have the power, the zeal, the energy, they're exposed to information, they're quick to find out, they're aggressive, and they can bring things in order very fast. So you realize maybe senior guys who see these people as threats because of their ambition and because of how good they are, they don't see their value. That is the biggest problem we have. They tend to feel this young guy will take my space. But that is not the case. This young person just wants a space to be able to learn and learn, learn and learn, get experience, and help you serve better. Anyway, it's the ecosystem. You know, there are some things you cannot control.
Okay.
If someone can perform, and if someone can perform better than you, who doesn't want value? Who doesn't want value? The government wants value. If it's a corporate, they want value. Okay. It's up to you to find a way of matching up or working with this team to improve what you do. The
contest of ideas there.
Yes.
Yes, Njeri. Yeah. Briefly, can I get back to you after the feedback? Because we aren't doing this conversation only here in studio. We also engage the young people. The hashtag on Twitter is Daybreak at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. So let's see some of your feedback from the Twitter handle. And here's what you are saying. This one from Kipingeno Headboy says, youths are the majority, yet they have never been able to make good use of their numbers. The few who get elected don't have the numbers and goodwill to effectively take care of the youth interest. We'll make good progress if we stop sycophancy and disunity. Yes. Bob Otieno Wino says young people still have a long way to go on matters leadership because they are still dependent on political bigwigs from the political parties and even financially because they are disadvantaged. Engineer Lazaro says the president failed to absorb youth into his cabinet for the second time, meaning sweet words and caveats for youth/hustlers is only being used as a political gimmick to woo the voters. Paul Orodi says the youthful parliamentarians have a lot to do to prove their worth. For starters, they should focus on driving the young people's agenda in and out of parliament. Bootlicking the executive isn't their business. Wanjiko_Thiga says this election saw the most youthful electoral process. Young people ran for office and some made it through. We have bright minds such as Honorable Wakili Njeri. As a youth, we are proud to be represented by her. Kimaru Festa says the young people should fight for positions of leadership rather than just waiting to be given. That's how they can take up their rightful space fully. MC_Ruma says power is not given, power is taken. The youth should take up leadership positions and stop being petty sycophants to seasoned politicians. We are tired of the old narrative that the young people are the leaders of tomorrow. Youth should unite first. And Huza HSC says the population involves young people as an age group. The opportunity amplifies the story of the political regime of the country. Political association clubs for either corruption or conjunction of favorable political and economic circumstances. Sawe says, Begi Gesicho, if the president really thinks and wants to empower the young people, why ignore Uwezo Fund 0% and introduce Hustler Fund 9%? With so many restrictions, youth empowerment starts with an incentive, not restrictions. We are still far from the truth. And those are some of the feedback. Later we'll be having others towards the tail end of the broadcast that is in about 15 minutes time. Yes, a lot coming through, but you had a point. Proceed with the point and then respond to some of the questions raised by the viewers.
I actually nearly forgot. I want to say that self-preservation informs the basic human behavior, right? Even from your viewpoint as a person. So Begi has said that the status quo is threatened by young people who are coming up. And I believe, like I've said, everybody has a progression and a projection of where they want to be 10 years or 20 years from now. So look, this is Kirinyaga County. There's a new name, right? This is a young person. So sometimes maybe a politician who has been there is doing their math and their math can't math because then now I am part of the math, right? Yeah. So at the end of the day, to some extent, I do understand the politicians or the status quo and their fear when someone new comes in, because then there's only one position, right? So it can't fit two people. It's either you or me. And people love change. And sometimes you will find that the voting patterns are informed by just the mere need for change. So at the end of the day, I sympathize with them, but I believe we have to look beyond and be very intentional about holding the hands of young people in politics, because nature abhors a vacuum. Okay. There has to be a stir up in politics once in a while, and you will see new faces like me and the likes of Toto and Cynthia Muge. There's a tweet that I've seen here on Uwezo Fund. There's a time in sometime I think in 2015. Yes. I proceeded to the offices because I wanted to do some businesses. Okay. And I found out that you need security for you to get any funding from Uwezo. How many 24-year-olds own property in Kenya? And that is why the president is keen on ensuring that he introduces and implements the Hustler Fund, because that fund will be accessed across the nation. No restrictions in terms of security? No restrictions. So there's a difference according to you? Yes. Okay. So at the end of the day, I believe we need to have some sort of, we just give him some goodwill. We extend it to him. This country, he took over from a country that was bedridden in a fix. I've seen people making noise about the subsidies that he stopped. And it was a bold decision for the president to make, because subsidies hurt the economy in the long run. They abuse the market. They are prone to misuse by people in power for their benefit, while the general populace suffers. So we want to fix this nation, but fixing takes time. We can't do a quick fix. You cannot use a Band-Aid for a gunshot, right? You have to go, and we have to be ready. It is a painful process. We have to be ready to work with the President of the Republic of Kenya and support him, because he has a goodwill and the intent, and he is already at work. Okay, then the point about Begi, sycophancy, that seems to be a problem that again emerges. We had it earlier in the discussion. Yes. But the point of young people understanding the power within them and getting delinked from not wholly the political establishment because of mentorship and the need to learn the inroads politically,
But again, speaking for the young people as representatives, but the problem of sycophancy still does exist, isn't it?
Yes, it still exists. But I would say mostly I notice it affects urban areas. If we go to rural areas mostly, there's the issue of sycophancy. I think it's the state of the economy that sometimes allows the young people to become sycophants because they have a short-term interest. Praise this guy, get the funds, disappear. And we can't run away from such a society. In every market, there are different types of people. If we go to the funding issue like Uwezo Fund and the rest, it was the most bureaucratic department that has ever come to existence, because no young person was able to get funding unless you know someone from government, someone who's senior, unless someone who's senior who knows someone somewhere will come and give in a wada. That's a struggle. How many young people know these people? And how many young people can get to this? Zero. Very few. It cannot even be 0.001. It is difficult for young people to survive if the terms that are put on the table for them to be able to get funding is crazy. What is Hustler Fund? Hustler Fund is a concept that was put together to take charge and step in, replace Uwezo Fund, to reduce bureaucracy. Hustler Fund is bureaucracy less of bureaucracy. It will be going down to the ward level. It will be going down to the ward level that any person in a circle, in a group, in an organized manner will be able to access and get the funding to them. And it's a single interest rate loan. You cannot give young people money without responsibility. They will not pay back. Even us seated here, if you give me money without a responsibility, I won't pay back. But if I want to nurture myself and have the responsibility where the chief knows I've picked this money, the ward rep knows I've picked this money. And again, this is the catch. They give you the money to do the same business you've been doing. If you've been Mama Mboga, they fund your Mama Mboga 2 or 3 times. If you've been a Shushaina, they fund you 2 or 3 times. They're not giving you way beyond what you're used to, because we all know what happens if you get funding and you're not used to it in a certain manner. So yes, young people need to come together, like I've seen these guys in the Twitters that came in mention.
Okay.
But then again, it is us or leaders in Parliament and Senate to keep reminding and keep fighting for young people outside there. It's a process, yes, it will take time, yes, but it will happen. The advantage we have as a country and as young people is we have a president who's keen with the interest of the young people. He's keen to supporting the young people. He's keen to intervene in their interest. And William Ruto is the most, I would say, easy person young people will have to see as a president in this country who cares about them, because he's gone out of his way even to bring in initiatives that support young people. But that does not mean we're not going to hold him responsible. Yes, we respect him. He's the head of state. We value him. We believed in his principles. That's why we backed him up and we supported his agenda. We're still going to want to see him deliver. Because if he doesn't deliver, the many young people who are sending in the tweets and those who cannot send in the tweet will continue to struggle. We will keep reminding him. We will keep asking him to consider the young people. Because at the end of the day, like you say, they are the most largest constituent. And remember, they are the most risky ones as well.
Okay.
But since he came from nothing, he knows what the value of being there for young people is. Okay.
And because there's also an upsurge in the number of unemployed young people in the country. Yes, Njeri, you had a point. Kindly proceed.
Yeah, actually, that's
because we need to sample a number of feedback again, yeah.
Yes, that's what I wanted to say, that Kenyans are suffering. But young people are suffering even more, because young people are coming out to a job market that is not going, or rather is not sustainable to absorb them. And we have high levels of unemployment. Young people are thinking about the next meal. So you find that if you're thinking about the next meal, you do not have time to think about holding the political class accountable or aggressively pushing for your space in political leadership. So it is all these issues that come into play for young people and these challenges that we have. But we're hoping that as the government gets to work and as we progress, we will be able to empower young people and empower them enough so that they can be able to rally together for a common cause. Okay, and we'll be getting to the many other feedback, because we have not been doing this discussion on alone. Then, Beggy, let's finish up with this on this very important subject. That's the economy and the absorption, the place of TVETs, for example, and
a largely bloated or over-bloated job market. We have seen the number of graduates, the increase in the number of young people graduating from universities, and then unemployment becoming another thorn in the flesh of the successive administrations, including this of President William Ruto. How can that then be addressed, Beggy, looking from policy perspective? Because a majority of these are, again, the young people still. The shocker falls on them.
The truth is we cannot all fit in employment. And that's why the president for the last so many years has been, before he became president, as deputy president, he's been pushing on the issue of TVETs. He's been pushing on the issue of young people thinking in other ways of making an earning as you wait for any other opening to happen. So yes, every year, every month, many young people fall into the market, to the job world. They have no idea what to do. But again, government should create more opportunities of young people to engage into other forms of businesses, those who can, because not all young people, again, are good in business. Some are purely, I would say, technocrats. They don't want to be employed in either blue-collar job, white-collar job, which is also an uphill task. And even the condition where the government is, the country is at the moment, we can never say that the government will be able to match up the number of young people coming into the job world, job market, seeking employment. It's very difficult. It's something that will really take a very long time.
Then what do you think in the alternative is the soft landing spot for the government?
Let's encourage young people and open avenues for them to be able to raise resources to do businesses here and there, so that they can be able to put their soul and body together. As the government tries to sort out issues of employment in many forms, and you see, we need to be very categorical here. Employment must not be government employment alone. No. Like the housing projects, it's giving a lot of young people employment opportunity, but not again all the young people will go for the same. Okay? Because there are people who believe they have schooled better, they want a better way of having a living or earning a living, which you cannot really dictate to them. It's what they think. But in a nutshell, young people should be able to think, we should be able to think of other ways of earning a living. And you see, I really want this issue of Hustler Fund to be up and running.
Do you think that will unlock the problem?
It will sort out a bigger number.
Okay. And do you then agree with me that this has been a problem not only for the present administration of the president, but also successive governments in addressing unemployment? And the fear is that these idle minds who are graduates from universities will clearly be exploited by other parties, including even terror organizations. We have seen in 2015 how Al-Shabaab used a lawyer graduate to lead the attack on the university, killing innocent more than 100 students who are going about their business of studying. Does it, in your view, then the government, is it important it considers from that perspective that you have to open up frontiers, including the Hustler Fund you have mentioned, to economically tap into the productivity of these young graduates? It's
very crucial. It's not important. It's very crucial. Because you see, an idle mind is a devil's workshop. These young people you see outside here have potential in a manner that you can never imagine. They are willing to serve. They are ready to work. They are ready and available for service and to do all these businesses that you see. If the Hustler Fund will be used right and will be placed in the right place, and the access to it will be as minimal as the Wezo Fund in terms of conditions and bureaucracies, the youth are going to change. And these young people who are struggling outside here, they have a plan as well, they have a future as well. It's only that they don't have an opportunity. Why I have hope this time around is, I'm looking at the head of state, the President, His Excellency William Samoei Ruto, has come from the same ground. He had nothing before. He is where he is right now. And I'm sure that thing is reminded of every day when he wakes up and sees his kids. And His Excellency, the President, is one unique person. You might think he's ignored you, or he's not heard you, or he's forgotten about you. But he knows exactly what he's doing. What I know, he has a passion for the youth. That one I can confidently say. Right. He has a dream and a vision, because the lesser the burden the youth have, the easier the country he can manage it.
And the economic burden thereof, which is key. Yes, you had a point, please?
We have to social re-engineer in terms of what we look at for job opportunities. You find that we had a traditional setup of doctor, lawyer, and all these other white-collar jobs. But we have gotten to a point where our populace is now high. It is not the same population that we had perhaps with the first president. So the challenges for this government and the next government will even be more in terms of unemployment. So we have to branch out and think agriculture. We have to branch out and think ICT. Okay. We have to branch out and think businesses, right? And the government will never create enough jobs to cover the entire populace that is being churned out from our institutions. So it is upon the government to ensure that we have an environment that supports perhaps businesses, innovation in ICT, intellectual property is an area that is huge that we haven't tapped. Okay. We now even have social media. We have people who are making money out of TikTok, but we do not say that let us now flood to TikTok as young people so that we can make money there. Otherwise, then there's going to be an imbalance in demand versus supply. So at the end of the day, there is a creative industry that is yet to be tapped by any government. And I believe that this government, William Samoei Ruto, is rooting and looking to push and ensure that we have expanded the ways in which young people can economically empower themselves, because if young people are not economically empowered, they will never be in a position to politically participate fully and expand and exhaust their potential that they hold.
And from your understanding, that does the current state of the economy then, because you have had the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua speaking about what he said was inheriting a dilapidated economy, and President William Ruto also speaking on the same, saying that there was gross mismanagement of the economy. Yesterday he talked about those who wielded power in the previous administration, accusing them of abusing their positions for selfish gains, warning that he will not tolerate indiscipline. Then if you are to reorient the economy for the young people to prosper, then how do you, number one, from your perspective as a member of parliament, champion for the same by the sponsoring of bills, speaking on that matter at the floor of the National Assembly? And also, how do you then think the government will be able to create these spaces for the young people to fit in within the economic sphere?
First of all, we've seen that the president is very keen and intent on creating the spaces for young people to thrive economically. So what we will be doing in Parliament is to support the legislation that will be brought to the floor of the House so that young people can maximize and fully benefit from this government. The President is going to be having legislation on housing, he's going to be having legislation on the Hustler Fund to support these initiatives. So what we can do as members of Parliament and on the floor of the House is to push for legislation that is going to ensure young people benefit from this government. The President requires the support of all of us so that he can perform. And it is quite unfortunate that there are people who are praying or wishing that he fails. If the President of this nation fails, we fail as a nation. We fail young people of this nation. We fail every person in this country that believes that they can have a better tomorrow. And that is why the President ran on the notion of hustler. And hustler does not mean that I am broke, because the term has been abused and misused. It means that I am driven, that I know today I'm not doing well, but tomorrow I want to do better. And that is what he wants to do for all of us, and to ensure that we're in a country where every person accesses resources and feels that they can sustain whatever they are pursuing because they have a right to that.
Let's begin.
Let's get back to the young people fully. Let's see what the President is doing to support the young people. He's putting in place the Digital Creative World and TVETs in order. These are going to the young people. The Hustler Fund is also going to support the young people. The housing projects is also going to support the young people. And so many other projects that are yet to come out in due time. So, yes, as young people, we should have the mindset. We should be psychologically prepared. That change is coming, but we should be ready as well to change with the change that is coming to us, and embrace it and be willing to grow and be willing to do things might be forced to do things in a different way. If you're ambitious enough, you wanted to become a CS, unfortunately you're not a CS, accept, and whatever position you're going to get, or whatever opportunity you're going to get in terms of Hustler Fund, digital and creative world, all these things, let's adjust ourselves and be able to serve at the capacity that you're going to find yourself, to be able to earn a living and create wealth and inherit something for yourself. But then again, there's an issue that it's really been bothering me. You see, in most of these government opportunities, they always seek experience of so many years. Unless the government gives young people a chance to serve from a certain point, from the lowest scale or in a certain level coming up, that's the only way young people are going to get experience. And it's up to government to make sure that sincerely young people are getting opportunities. Sometimes we'll be putting a lot of pressure on the president. But remember, we have the cabinet secretaries, we have the PSS, we have the MDs, the CEOs, who are also able to make appointments without the consent or the consent of the head of state. It's up to us. In fact, most young people who hold this high position should really consider putting young people in this position so that they can be able to build the experience they need and knowledge that they want. Sometimes young people bring a lot of energy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll come back to you for your final comments. Let's sample the remaining feedback on our Twitter handle, that is at Citizen TV Kenya, the hashtag Daybreak, and the SMS code 22422. Isaac _Kasioka says the enemy of the young people is the young people. Most of those who have the opportunity to be in those boardrooms usually never mention fellow young people's names, so that they can eat the cake alone. Newton Kibira says this youth affair thing sucks because it comes after every electioneering period and will soon go to its bed rest before 100 days to resurrect again after the 2027 elections. We touched on this. And Peter Gesura 89 says, yet the government do its mandate now. Young people need to be given jobs as the Hustler Nation government promised during the campaigns. Copmatch _K says it's time for the young people to be given chances and leadership positions. The longest-serving leaders also should consider handing over the baton to the younger legs and minds. Our government should start rewarding effectiveness. Kipingeno Headboy says youth empowerment has never been done right. Most leaders ridiculously. I believe empowering youth means organizing football tournaments. We need job opportunities.
Very true.
All youthful lawmakers must be reminded that the time for honeymoon is over. It's now time to deliver on their colorful campaign pledges. They must be ready to charge their own path and success and avoid hiding behind the so-called political chess masters. J Economics says government must create an enabling environment for employment creation. The United Democratic Alliance and the Kenya Kwanza Alliance promise jobs. Now you're asking all graduates to open businesses? That is the question that he asked. Yes, Njeri, final comments, and then I'll come to Gesicho. You don't respond to one?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, please.
We're not asking all young people to open businesses. We've said that young people need to take up spaces in agriculture. There's a young lady who's called Onion Doctor who's doing quite an impressive job. They need to take up spaces in the creative sector, intellectual property. We have said they need to social re-engineer what they're thinking and look across all avenues so that they can be fully economically empowered. I want to ask the young people of this nation, and we are ready and we're here to support you, and we're willing to mentor and hold your hand. But we obviously have a limitation of the capacity at which we can do that, because at the end of the day, we also have to deliver to the general populace that put us in these positions. So let young people manage their expectations, let young people be disciplined, let young people walk through the entire process. We will be pushing and putting the president to ensure that he actualizes on the promises he made to the young people. But we must take charge. We are not here to fear the future. We are here to shape it.
Okay. Yes.
I would say it's too early to judge the government that has just taken power, and let's have faith. Let's give them a bit of time. Let's see how the president has had 100 days to do some things, and again, as young people, where Kenya is right now is in a bad place. We People are dying of drought. People are dying of hunger. The wildlife we're losing. It has never been. The last time we had this is 1980s.
Okay.
So yes, we can put our interest aside, and if we can find a way of supporting first these drought issues, these key issues that are hitting us hard. You know, who knows tomorrow how many young people will be alive if the drought will continue to being this way. So yeah, let's give the government a chance, and then again, as much as you're giving them a chance, also let them have the young people at mind and know that these people need to be sorted out.
Okay, and the accountability questions that you have mentioned. Thank you for your time. Njeri Maina is the woman representative of the County of Kirinyaga. Thank you for your time and company. And Begi Gesicho is a commentator on youth affairs in the country. Your time is all appreciated. Talking about the potential of the country's most productive portion, that's the young people, often amid a feeling of disenfranchisement, sidelining, and the deep disquiet among the people who make a lion's share of the country's demography. Thank you for your comments and the text that you have sent us on the Twitter handle at Citizen TV Kenya. The hashtag was Daybreak and at Ayub Abdikadir. And we'll do this again next week by the grace of God. Many thanks for waking up with us here on the broadcast. That's cherished and appreciated. Thank you. Good morning.